What's up, everybody? We got some incredible charts to go over today. The market's starting to push back up. There were signs for the breakdown. There were signs for this most immediate pump that just happened, but we've got some incredible guests coming on here in just a little bit. We're going to be getting going here in about 2.5 minutes. So everybody hit that retweet, hit that like button, share this out with your friends and family, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. If you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter, either way, I'm happy that you are here. It is holiday season. We have got to make sure that we do not mess up the opportunity that is before us right now. A lot of people are going to act emotionally. There's been some panic selling. I'm going to tell you exactly the levels we should be watching and the signals that are indicating what is happening next. But as it stands right now, everybody, this is feeling good. There's some pumpage going in the market. Do not worry about a little pullback. I'm going to show you exactly why. But before we dive in, let's go ahead and get this retweeted out. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell, and give me a higher low. Let's do it together. And with that, let's get this music rocking while we wait for the start of the show here in just about 2 minutes.
Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. SEC and its policies rely on whatever Gary thinks. Bitcoin to flight to quality. I heard that from Larry Fink. Every hour losing purchasing power on foolish shelter. It's not our fault. Blame the coal. It's the political cowards. When it comes to gas, our purchasing power just got cut in half. I sit back and laugh, open my bag and fill it with stacks and sats. Bitcoin pumping, altcoins pumping. I've been preparing for this. Can't tell me nothing.
And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a flight to quality. We are hearing from clients around the world.
Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this.
And I believe crypto will play that type of role as
Bitcoin, pump, altcoin, pump.
we are hearing from clients around the world.
Can't nobody tell me nothing.
Crypto, depending on how you think about it. And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a
Can't
flight
nobody
to
tell me
quality.
nothing. Bitcoin, pump.
We are hearing from clients around the world.
I am ready for this. I know you all are ready too. Let's get into this. Green charts, red charts, doesn't matter what's going on. Sometimes it just depends on the time frame you're looking at. What do the charts say? What do the signals say? What should we be looking at? Is this about, has this topped? Is it breaking down? Is this a little relief rally? Bear trap, bull trap? Let's talk about it. Everybody hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ding the bell. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good night. It is Tuesday, November 26th, the week of Thanksgiving. The markets, I mean, we're sitting up here $94,484. We had a pullback to 94,000. We went a little lower than that, but look at where we're at in this market right now. Do not mess this up. We have an incredible show lined up today. Got Matthew Hyland coming on. We got Kevin Svensson coming on, but we got charts we got to look at. We got some signals we got to pay attention to. So every single one of you, if this is your first time, it's not going to be your last time. My name is Kellam. Welcome to the BitLab Academy daily stream. And as we dive into that, let's look at what's going on. Oh my God, we got the wrong camera set up, but that's okay. All we got to do is bop, just like that. There we go. And this is what we are looking at. Look at this. And I want you all to study this move right here and also this one primarily right here. I've talked about this a lot on the BitLab Academy stream here over the last 2 years. And that is when you see these impulses to the upside with getting weaker and weaker, meaning, look at the distance here. It's not as much distance, almost the same distance, now lower. And then we also get this lower low followed by lower high. This told us it was going to give us opportunity, not, oh, it's crashing. No, it's giving us opportunity to the downside. And this blue box, I did not add this blue box here because this dipped. We had this blue box here for the last couple weeks. And look at where the price action came right into, forming a falling wedge. And currently, it's trying to make an attempt to break out Do pay attention here. And by the way, we have a lot of TA to cover today. We have two of my favorite OG chart legends in the game coming on today. But we're going to cover some stuff. We're going to cover some stories. Also, some things going on in the market. Do pay attention that we, let's make this a little bit darker here. Double click, make this, there we go. Now you can see. Now delete that. Do pay attention that even though we have this impulse to the upside, do not get washed out if this starts breaking down again, because this may form something like this, which would be an inverted head and shoulders, signaling this is trying to make the move back up. Then we have this line of contention when this starts pushing back up, potential little breakdown there, a little trouble, maybe another washout, fake out. And then there's some work to do. There's some work to do, but the market is doing exactly what it should be doing right now, which is moving the money from the impatient to the patient. So the question is, if you are increasing your positions or having the value of your portfolios go up right now, or even if you're getting a little bit of a drawdown right now because you're very Bitcoin heavy, that's okay. It's all about the time horizon. So let's go ahead. Before we dive, we're going to dive into a bunch of TA here in a moment. Shout out to everybody that's in the house. I see my dad's here in the stream as well. Shout out to you, Poppy. Poppy, I just called you Poppy. Hey, Poppy Chulo. We got Peter in here, Andy D, Bad Fox, K-Jam, Chris Pfaff, old school OG homie of mine, Peter Lurum, Nicole Tater, what's up? Shout out to everybody, Alexander G. But let's go ahead and go through what we want to talk about. And that is the fact that, look at this, we're still over $3 trillion market cap and people are worried right now. What are you worried about? Take advantage of these opportunities. And here's why. This is the wrong move. This giant red mark right here, this is panic selling. We had a little bit of a move down and there are people selling here because they're worried this is the top. You are falling into the exact trap that they are hoping you will, so that they can take your crypto and realize massive profits down the road. Do not be this person, because look, this is the same thing. See this large amount of panic sellers into here, and then what happened? Boom, went from 67,000 all the way, boom, all the way up here to nearly $100,000, just under it. I mean, just a rat's ass hair right there. We are still setting up for that major move. Shout out to everybody that is here. I got to make this a little bit larger there. Now I can see what you guys are saying. Shout out to everybody that is here. I appreciate you all being here on a daily basis. Again, guys, I'm so bullish and everything happening right now. And this is from Caleb Franzen. This is something you got to pay attention to. What part of consolidate but up did you not understand? This bores people. It's a mechanism of boring you. It's a mechanism of, oh, it failed, I better get out. And then the second you get to that capitulation point is when that market realizes its upside trajectory that we've been talking about since the beginning of this year. In fact, we were talking about this since January last year, of the path upwards that this was going to take and the stair steps it has to take to get there. Yeehaw! And that's right. That's from my dad. But what we're seeing right here, look at this shape. Very similar. Okay, maybe we even go lower, and I'm going to show you where here in just a second. But for me, it's not a cause of concern with the massive amount of buying pressure that's coming into this market, and it's only scheduled, not pontificated. Let's hope it's already scheduled for an incredible increase in the buying pressure to come in the coming year. And so whatever happens here with any downside, I could only be thankful for the opportunity if that were to happen. Sometimes we got to be a little bit more patient than we expect. But hey, I'm here to be patient because I want my profits to be freaking astronomical. And that only happens with patience. I don't care if you're watching different news streams and YouTube things and articles and posts on various different social media about this one person that made millions. And it takes time, but it's within this market faster than you can basically do in any other market out there. So let's be a little patient here. This is what we're looking forward to. Now, continuing on, this is a great outline that we see in the previous bull market corrections, drawdowns. Look at how deep this got. Look at how sustained, how many big drawdowns we had on the way up here in 2015 into 2017. Look at this one in 2019 into 2022. Massive drawdown here. Another massive drawdown here before we ultimately got to the cycle top there. Look at where we're at. This is the most luxurious bull market we've ever had. It might feel frustrating to you because we have hopes and dreams and where this can go. Let it do the work so we can get there. And as Crypto Crank says, what up, Essay? Well, you know what? To all my muchachos out there, big love to each and every one of you. Now, continuing on here, we got a lot of stuff to get through today. Look at this. At the end of November 2020, remember that was also an election year, Bitcoin got all the way up to $19,850, but couldn't get over 20,000 milestone. Now ask yourself, did we get over it in 2020? We did, but look at the work it had to do to flush people out, get everybody excited, flush people out, and then boom, pop goes the weasel. That's what we're here for. Time in the market will always beat timing the market. Now, continuing on, understanding this, and I've got a chart I'm going to show you here that's going to make you really excited. And it's a 1-2 okey doke, and all it takes is a little bit of patience. So here that is. And cute kittens, happy Tuesday to you as well. Happy Tuesday to everybody that's out there. Now, say it with me. Then look in the mirror and say it to yourself. Bitcoin has not topped. Crypto bull market is not over. Dips are for buying, or at minimum, sitting on your hands. Maybe you're not buying, but don't mess this up, because right in this zone here, oh my God, and then you see this right here that just absolutely wrecks your vocabulary by feeling like this. HODL, prosper, is all it takes sometimes. A little bit of time. But then we also see Morocco lifts 2017 ban and legalizes Bitcoin and crypto. That's bullish. Then we see Suriname presidential candidate vows to make Bitcoin legal tender. That's bullish. We know Microsoft's having this vote in a matter of about 2 weeks about adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet. We know Michael Saylor's already had, I think, almost $10 billion in the last 2 weeks alone. He's going to do $42 billion by the end of 2025. By the end of the next 3 years. I think that's going to happen 3 times quicker than he suggests, because he's trying to now outpace nation states buying. So is there going to be some bumps along the road? Absolutely. And once you realize there's going to be bumps along the road, you can take advantage of those bumps, or just de-stress yourself by not being actively emotionally challenged every time the market doesn't just have a God candle to the upside. Now, continuing on, what do we see? Coincidence? Could Bitcoin top out on Inauguration Day? That's January 20th. The peak of wave 1 and 3 aligned with this time, with time cycles almost flawlessly, as did waves 2 and 4 lows. The ebb and flow of this market points to a possible top in late January. Now, whether or not we get a top in January or February or March, I would argue or just suggest that in this cycle moving forward over the course of now to the end of 2025, I do think we are going to get something similar, not exact, but something similar to a cross between, let's come up here to a halving progress right here. I do think we're going to get something similar to a combination of this cycle, this 2016, 2017 cycle, and this 2013 cycle. People don't think this is possible because the market cap's so much bigger, but we also have exponential times magnitudes of standard deviations larger money coming into this market. And they're going to be, I really think it's going to end up being a Bitcoin arms race. I do think it is setting up the primed opportunity to have a massive run up early in the year. A sell-off that maybe everybody goes, this was the top. And I'm telling you now, mark it on your calendars now, November 26th. And I've said this before, but let's mark this date, November 26th, 2024. Kelly Kellam, BitLab Academy said, we're going to have an early cycle top that's going to have a pretty large correction. Everybody thinks we can't have a large correction because this big money's coming in, but you watch and wait for it. That provides a perfect dichotomy, the perfect setup to have this big run up into February, maybe January, but February, March, April, pretty decent sell off, and I'm saying in the order, the magnitude of 20 to maybe 50%, but that gets a little too large for me, but I'd say, let's call it 30%. and then have this run up going into the end of the year, September, October, November. That can happen very, very quickly. So if that doesn't happen, great. I think we'll get us a burn like this. And even with this, and this does not look fierce, this does not look volatile, this does not look violent, but there was 11 moves on this from the low to the high. 11 moves over, I think, over 15%. There's 8 moves over 26%, meaning moves to the downside that people would say that was a top. People would say that's a top. People would say that's a top. People would say that's a top because on this, and every one of those people that said that was a top potentially is when this drops, they sell on the drop on the bottom side of this. That is when you get the spring launch to the upside. So where we're at right now, you can see this is outlining the number of days since halving. Where we're at, this was a halving right here. The number of days since halving, this is what it looked like last cycle. This is what it looked like the cycle before that. And look at this. We had this black dot right there is an all-time high. And what do you see after that? It's just price discovery, black. Same thing right here. Right after this in 2016, we had the all-time high there, correction, and then huge amount of price discovery. This is a little different. We had that early all-time high. That's these black dots. And now we're starting that trajectory, but there's going to be bumps along the way. This is how you build the stairway to heaven. Is there a gap that has to be filled at 77K? There's no gap ever that has to be filled. There is a pretty large gap. We'll pull it up on the charts here in just a moment. There is a pretty large gap. I think it's like $78,000 to $80,000, and maybe it gets filled. Maybe it gets filled in 2 years. We have to stay vigilant on what's happening in the charts right now and not get emotional because we're getting a little bit of a pullback. And I have some interesting numbers I'm going to show you here in just a moment. Do not be this panic seller or any of these people contributing to, look at this. They're selling at this point here. Smart money's taking profits into the strength, not when something has this pullback and they sell. No, that's not how you make money in this market over time. Now, shout out to everybody that is here. We got a couple hundred, we got 600 people in the room between YouTube and Twitter. Thank you for everybody for being here. Make sure you hit that like button, you hit the subscribe button, ding the bell, get active in the live chat. Comment also in the chat there if you're on Twitter. Make sure you're following along. We got 2 great guests coming on today, Matthew Hyland and Kevin Svensson. I know Kevin Svensson for sure is coming on, but sometimes Matt oversleeps, and that's okay because we got a lot of stuff to go over either way, but we're going to be getting into it here in just a few more minutes with them. But let's continue on talking about what we got to talk about. Whatever we're saying, whatever the cycle is, even if we get a pullback here all the way, I mean, you could get honestly, look, a pullback all the way to these tops, but I'm going to show you where I'm really looking for those levels here in just a moment. Because look at this, the monthly RSI of Bitcoin is just broken the greater than 70 level. That is this shaded area. This is 70, this is 30. Look at what happened here. Pretty good push up. We had that 7-month consolidation and now boom, secondary one here. We're getting the launch. Well, look at this. This is right at the point when we broke this 70 level on the monthly chart on Bitcoin. This is where that run, that epic run started. Similar thing right here. Back here in 2016 into very end of 2016, this was the start of that move. But what do we also get with the RSI? Large move up. What do we get with this strength, the underlying strength signal? That's what you're looking at with this, this metric down here, the relative strength index. We still, even though we broke through this, look, the RSI cooled off and then launched. So let's be a little bit, I don't want to say conservative. Do not concern yourself with every move being potentially a top or about. Have a time horizon in play and let the market do the work. So we are so bullish. Now we got some TA we're going to get into. We got some other things we got to get into. But before we do, I do want to shout out our channel partners that help make this happen and also help make sure we can keep you protected. Head over to nordvpn.com/BitLab, NORD. VPN.com, nordvpn.com/BitLab. The links are in the video directly below this on YouTube. You'll see description. There's all the links there. Also, if you're on Twitter, it's directly below that live stream in the first comment. nordvpn.com/BitLab gets you 4 months free. And then also, of course, head over to getarculus.com if you want the best crypto cold storage solution out there. It is one tap total security. help protect your crypto, protect your future. You can use code BitLab20, BITLAB 20, the numbers. You get 20% off. So thank you to our channel partners, and thank you all for letting us talk about what we're doing with our channel partnerships. And of course, if you want to trade with us, we do have that free traders group in Telegram. That link is directly below the video in the description. It's also directly below the video there in the first comment on Twitter. Now let's talk about these levels, because we have the market showing us on the 3-day chart, massive amount of liquidity up here from where people shorted, and people have been shorting on the way down, and some are 20x, some are 10x, some are 40x. It's various. This calculates kind of where the hot zones are or where the most liquidity is pooled. If the market does push all the way up into here, this is a huge amount of money. I mean, you can just see there, liquidation leverage, 43 million, 6 million, 18 million, 12 million, 27 million, 12 million, 14, 22, 54. There's so much liquidity above us, but does that mean it has to go up to that magnet zone? Well, let's get a little bit more granular. Let's look at the 24-minute here. And we see, we kind of, look, we came up, flushed out this liquidity, came back down. Okay, not much liquidity directly below us, and this starts stacking up, but then this pushes up, grabs this liquidity, but look at this hot zone directly above us here at 95.2, 95.7, here into the 96 zone. But we also have this little bit of a hot zone directly below us down here at $91,000. Well, what does that mean for where we're at? What are we seeing? What do we do? Well, we had this falling wedge. We're on the 1 hour. I want to point out two things here, everybody. Do you remember? How many of you, throw a 1 in chat if you were in this market in the last market cycle top? Let me double click here. How many of you were in this market in the last market cycle top in this zone here? Throw 1 in chat if you were already in the market, even if you just got in the market. I want to point something out, because patterns repeat on all time frames. And this is a key endpoint lesson when you're seeing something develop on the chart that has played out so many times before. I don't want to say you can count on it, but hedge yourself that that is likely to happen. And this is what I'm talking about right here. What do you see right here on the chart? You see a very large impulse up, smaller impulse up, even smaller impulse up. It's almost leaning over. Now look, we have a lower low right here from this low. All of a sudden we had all these higher lows. All of a sudden then we get a lower low followed by a lower high breakdown. Now, remember that right now. Lesson time, school's in session. By the way, roll call. If you're paying attention, even if you at work, I don't care where you're at, just get into the live chat, drop anything in there. I want to see who's paying attention. I want to see who's really knowing what's going on, because we got to start doing this together. Look at that. That was on a macro, more of a macro picture. If we get down to the 1 hour, double click here. What do we see right here? This is exactly the same thing we saw on that macro. What is it? Look at the price action. 1 hour, we had a large impulse, smaller impulse starting to lean. Okay. And now look at this, starts kind of breaking down, but then we get the lower low right here, followed by the lower high. And then what do we get after that? Down. The chart was telegraphing what the intention, or what the narrative, the strength of the narratives of the bulls or the bears, the people that are expecting price to go up, or the strength of the people that are expecting the price to go down. That is case in point, number one thing you're paying attention to if you're actively trading this market, or you're paying attention to these charts, looking at candles, trying to figure out what I should do. Doesn't matter how bullish you are in this moment. The market may be calling for a little bit of a washout of that bullish sentiment. So the question is, what is the dominant narrative and what's the oscillation between the two? This price action was telling that. The most basic way you can describe this is a rounding top, right? But then you get that lower low, right? Followed by the lower high, and the market broke down. Now with that, on this breakdown, we got a falling wedge, which this in turn tends to break bullish. And this did break bullish. And as I just mentioned at the start of this stream, we're watching for a potential pullback like this, if we can get it, because this would be an inverted head and shoulders, on which then we can measure this from the base of this head, this deeper dip here, up into this sort of neckline. And we can move this out to a breakout target that shows that the move out of this would likely be pushing up into 97.5 sort of zone. But we have to also pay attention to this low right here. So 95.8. And what were we talking about? This is what we want to do when we're looking at price action. Look at the liquidation levels. And we talked about this sort of 95.8, 96 zone. Coming back to the chart, look at where this is, 95.8 into 96. This zone right here is going to be an interesting area. So what are we to do right now? First off, calm down. The macro picture is phenomenal. We're trying to figure out in this move right here, because we still have calls. Look at this. We still have calls for potential. This might come out, fake out into this, and then get that move down into this zone here, which is this next sort of node that I've had marked out on this chart. We still do have that CME futures gap. Where's it at? Right here. Oops. Nope, that's not it. Not dominance. Where are we at? CME futures. We still have this gap, $78,000 to $80,000, which we could get. And this is that other level that we were just talking about, that deeper node, about 86. But there is reason to kind of consider that this could come down and wash out and flush a lot of people out. I'm still not super convinced we're going to get down and flush this out in this move. I do think because of the bullishness underlying the market right now, unless something geopolitically just explodes, for lack of a better term, that, if we do get a move, it's going to be somewhere in this region here, this lower 90s, potentially with the wick down into this 96, leaving all these bears that really want to come and get this filled, just to be sitting there holding their bag of shorts, only to get liquidated when the price action moves back to the upside. But there's a bigger picture at play that I want you to look at, the macro sense here. And that is this chart right here. This is Bitcoin on the 3-day chart, looking at these previous high here, this previous mid-cycle previous high. And I just want you to pay attention to something. This is what that chart, that post I was talking about earlier, with the move up to not breaking through this $20,000 ceiling right here. This was November 5th, 2020, roughly right about when that election happened. We had consolidation right in here. Let's zoom into this. See, we had this consolidation, which lasted, let's go. We had this consolidation here that lasted about 21 days, about 3 weeks. And then boom, pop to the upside. So what I'm paying attention to here is this move right here. Why this move? What I'm measuring from here is the top of this, where this topped out, okay? This topped out, and I'm measuring to the bottom side of this move right there. I was just trying to make it very clear. So there to there, that's a 30% move that on this move, quite a few people sold here because they thought the market had topped out. What happened right after that? Washout of the weak hands. And then from this, I measured, look, from this dip, I measured this base to the cycle top. That's a 123% move. 123% move to the upside after people thought, oh, no, it's over. This is why when you're in a strong bullish trend, especially when you understand these market cycles that we are still currently in. We'll have to see in these next 2 cycles if this persists forward. But this point, look, dips are for buying, dips are for buying, dips are for buying, dips are for buying. From the halving to where this happens is roughly about 500 days. Look, we can see where we're at right now. Look at how much was after that. Look at how much was after that. We are so early in this market cycle, bull trend. We are still, I really do believe so, looking for dip buying opportunities. So if this is the case, then what would this analog look like if we compared it to where we're at right now? And hold on to your shorts, because you're going to love this. And that is looking at this previous cycle top. Look, chop. This is same thing as we saw right here. Chop. Now, this was 7 months, but that created a stronger base. All the while, Wall Street is out there selling Bitcoin as an idea now to all their different compatriots, their colleagues, their competitors. We have the biggest asset managers in the world talking about how Bitcoin is the best asset ever. Larry Fink, Fidelity, Michael Saylor, Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, also now on the Bitcoin train, Cantor Fitzgerald. Guys, We are here. Do not mess this up, because this right here is equivalent to this right here. So if this is a little bit of a short rally right here, there's no way to tell. We're looking at that big drop, and I just analogged it. Boom, from that top. If we got a 30% drop, I literally just copied this and drug it over here. And then I copied this one, drug it over here. And if that were to happen, look at what that would mean. That's actually pretty remarkable when you measure it. This means that if we did get this, this would shock people. One, it would shock me even. This would still result only in the price action coming down and retesting this previous zone top where all of this previous resistance was, flipping that to support. And if that were to happen, even from this area right here, coming all the way back to 65, so many people are going to say, you see, that was the top. And then you get a similar style push. That would result in $155,000 Bitcoin. And that's if we get a move all the way down here. I don't necessarily think we're going to get it unless a catastrophe happens that drops all markets globally, not just Bitcoin. So this is kind of like a worse bearish case scenario, meaning what if we got a 30% dip? Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but let's outline it so if it does, we don't lose our minds and sell right at this point, only to have this, and you missed out on all of this magic and really all of this magic. I am not willing to miss out on any magic. And that's why we're here on a daily basis, breaking this down with you all, letting you know what's going on in this market. Now, when we look at other things that are happening in the market, also, Moonwell absolutely ripping to the upside. Why is that? Monthly fees on Moonwell have reached an all-time high in November. This is, look at this, starting to push up. And when we come over here and we look at Moonwell, where are we at? I had it right here. There we go. Boom. Look at this. This is on the 3-day. Let's get down to like the 6 hours. Yeah. Look at this. Descending level of resistance. Look, rejection, higher lows here. We got the rounding bottom, and then boom, slice right through, coming where? Right into, let's draw a box. What's in the box? Previous resistance and support. And look at this, rejection, support, rejection, price action, tried to slice through it, and look at where we're at right now. But this is excellent. We were talking about this, in this area here, And then from this low, the market has gone up about 51% since we started getting in there. Gigi, we will do some TA on Aptos and XLM. Absolutely. We'll throw an XRP there as well. We'll see what charts also our buddies want to do when they hop in here, Kevin Svensson and Matthew Hyland. They might even hop in at the same time, but we'll see. But I do think this has got an incredible future ahead. Another altcoin that is absolutely ripping. And we were talking about this, all the way through here. This area right here, I said, watch out, guys. I think this is bottoming. If you guys remember me talking about Constellation DAG and the bottoming structure, and hey, this is the time to be stacking, throw a 1 in chat, because I know a lot of you do remember. Some of you might be new here, but shout out to each and every one of you, whether this is your first time or you've been here many times before. Big love to each and every one of you, because we have been keeping you guys in the know. The calls we've been making this, I feel very lucky and fortunate that I've been in this market for years. I can share where I've messed up. I can share what I think is happening. We have been nailing these calls for the better part of the last 2 years. Now, bottoming structure, boom. Now pushing up from that, let's look at this. And I outlined, I think this is the bottom. If we measure this to the upside, look at this. This is a 293% gain just from here in September. And this is still so far to go. Why is that? Constellation DAG partnered with U.S. Air Force, U.S. Space Force. They're on the International Space Station. They're partnered with Panasonic. They are doing so, Department of Defense, and they're only recently really rolling out to retail. So they are such a proven project, and it is a great project with a super low market cap. Look at this. Market cap right now is 220 million. And then look at these other ones here. I mean, even down here, number 39, Filecoin, that's a 3.3 billion. So even if it got only here to, okay, the graph, which is number 54 on CoinMarketCap rankings, $2.2 billion. That would be a 10x just to get up to this level. That is great. Now let's go ahead and look at some other ones. Let's look at Aptos because you wanted to look at that GG, and I pulled you over here from the Discovery Crypto channel. So let's look at Aptos. Look at this. Okay, let's boom, delete that. Got to adjust our course here. And looking at back at this here, we had the massive inverted head and shoulders. Boom. And look at this target. I mean, you can't even make this up. You see this? Measuring from what we call, this is what we call the neckline, where you have this, bounce or rejection here. Rejection again, you defined this neckline. And the neckline, I'm saying like this. I have a shoulder, I have a head, I have a shoulder. So this is inverted upside down. This is the left shoulder. This is a head. This is the right shoulder. You measure from this neckline all the way to the base, to the deepest part of the head. And then you come over here, measure this out. And I mean, you can't even make this up. Look at where the price action, came down, breakout, confirmation, launch. Came down, retested this again, and then ultimately came right to the target that this was suggesting. I do want to say, shout out. I do see some things, some activity happening here. Green Day Profits gifting 5 memberships, BitLab memberships here on the YouTube. Big love to you. I appreciate you. K-Jam, also a member here. Big love to you. I appreciate y'all. We got some member streams that we're going to be doing this week. Maybe we'll do a little holiday one too on Thursday. I will be out at a Christmas tree farm at one point of the day, but I want to do some more member streams this week because last week I was a bit busy with travel. So big love to you all. All you BitLab members get access to those member streams. But Aptos, here's on the 12-hour chart. This is just looking like, first off, I'm very bullish on Aptos this cycle. Just because they have such an incredible team. That's sort of the rising level of support. Look, all this is doing right now is coming down, retesting this high here, but this is starting to look a little weak. We have the momentum waves getting lower here. Momentum waves getting lower here, while the price action also is it's starting to look a little weak. I'd be watching for a move down into this zone here, 952 sort of region, maybe a little higher, but the $9.50 to $10 region, if we do box on it just to hold ourselves accountable, somewhere in this region here. If we do lose that, if Aptos loses this, then we may be coming down, and I would look right here. Option J gives you that mark. This is kind of, I don't want to say a dream buy, but I think this would be an incredible buy opportunity if it did come down to there. Doesn't mean I'm bearish on Aptos. When I'm looking at this in the near term, if we do get one of those larger pullbacks like we just outlined on Bitcoin, then I expect we're going to see some pretty significant pullbacks also in the altcoins. This would be 15%. This would be 30%. Both of those seem very in line and very doable. If Bitcoin pulls back 30%, this is not going to pull back 30% also. I would assume I would be looking for something like way down in here, which, I mean, that's just going to break your heart. But this means that you might, look at that, that's a 55% pullback. That doesn't mean I'm bearish on Aptos. I'm talking about this scenario. If we get a large washout in the crypto market and it's not ready for 100 yet, and we get a pretty big move down on Bitcoin, we're going to see some big moves down. But this means you would have an incredible opportunity to buy Aptos down here for less than half as much as that it is now. On the bullish case, I mean, this does also look a bit like a rising channel. It's kind of ugly, but we kind of have the rejection, kind of look, deviation out, but then rejection. Rising channels also tend to break bearish. But if this can hold in here on the upper side of this upper half here, you see how this is bounce. If this can hold in here and push up, then maybe we start getting that swing to the upside, but we need to see some strength come in the market here. I do expect over the next 4 or 5 days, it's a holiday week here in the US, some of the biggest liquidity providers to the market, there's plenty of room for some shenanigans to happen in this market. So watch for bear traps and such here, but I'm still very bullish on Aptos. but it is looking a little weak into these levels that we might get an opportunity lower. Another one that we could look at, you said XLM, and XLM absolutely ripping lately. I mean, look at that move. This is on the daily chart. Holy malarkey. Look at that move. That is a 600% gain. Did that really 6x? I was not paying attention to XLM. How many of you out there have been holding XLM and riding this dragon? I mean, because that is a move. And that's partly because we saw Gary Gensler fully identify that he was going to resign by January 20th. XRP and XLM kind of ride the same narrative around the potential suppression or support regarding of what the regulation is going to be from everything that the SEC has been just weighing down bearishly on that part of the market. But do notice we do have these massive push-ups that are very quick and then just slow bleed. Look, very quick push-up and then the slow bleed. Is this time different? I don't know. Well, where we're at in the market does suggest maybe the suppression was because, hey, a lot of money to be made, and we're still unsure because of the regulation by enforcement. Maybe this time is different, but even, I mean, is that really, I have to remeasure that. Is that really a 600% gain? I'd be watching for a little bit of a pullback here. Now, a couple ways that you can measure this is from the bottom there to the top. We have the 382, which look, this already came back into, boom, right? Sitting right here on the 382. If this is lost, I'll be watching for a move down here into this 29 cent sort of range. And if that's lost, then I'm looking for a 20 cent sort of marker right here where that 786 is. Now, what do we do? We can look if anything lines up with fibs that also is price action on the chart. So boom. So you see rejection, bounce, bounce, bounce. Rejection, rejection, rejection. So, and this is right where that 786 is. So that feels like it would be end of the world if you're so happy this just pumped, but this just 6x'd. If it were me, I would hedge a little bit of profit taking there. But where that is right now, we can see a move down to that would be, that's a 67% drop. That would mess up a lot of people, but we can't ignore I mean, look at this. All this chop here, rejection, support, rejection, rejection, 786. Is it going to go there? We'll have to see. But as it stands right now, we also have to acknowledge we just had a pretty strong narrative shift because of the new administration that's here involved. So although I can see that this potential downside target is there, I also want to acknowledge that the sentiment shift is real and where we're at in this market cycle is real, and what's to come seems to be more likely than not going to be a very bullish 2025, especially for crypto because of the new administration's supportive or perceived supportive stance on it. So if that's not the case, let's actually come over here. Let's do option H. Let's do option H. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to see on the chart where there's other similar zones going on. So we had this, look, a little rejection here, a little kind of, look at this, almost bounced between these two zones. And that was the golden pocket and the 382. So the most bullish case here would be obviously for this to consolidate a little bit right in here, maybe, even if it's a couple days, create a bull flag in this zone, you know, kind of do like this. And then you have your next move to the upside. As it stands right now, we need to see how much of this buying pressure was real versus the run on sentiment because of everything. And if there's not sustained buying pressure, then this does start to have that bleed back down like we've seen, you know, 2 times before. Now, similarly, if we come over here and we look at XRP, boom, zooming out, we had this massive level of support. Gesundheit. Mass level of support that it did lose, and it felt like it was never going to get above it. Lost it, rejected, rejected, rejected. And then we got that sentiment shift with that news and everything going right, it feels like, for crypto right now. So right that it makes me worried. But this also, XLM far outperformed. XLM was 600%. This is 230%. But This is starting, if it stays like this, is starting to do the right thing, which is push up a little bit of consolidation here. Let's actually delete this fib. Let's go down to the 2 hour right in here and see. Yes, I mean, this is looking good, but you have to acknowledge that we got a pretty big move there. And you can tell just by measuring this to there, look at, this is about half the size of the move. So there's some weaker sentiment coming in right here. But I've talked enough about this, guys. I'm here to make sure that you guys stay on the right side of the trend, and I'm not always right. Sometimes I don't even explain things in ways you like or understand, but you're here and I appreciate you. And one of the things that I vowed to myself early on to do when I started this channel and, in this community and build with all of you is to make sure that I bring in some of the leading voices in this market. And with that, we'll jump right to our boy, Mr. Matthew Highland. How are you doing? How you doing, my friend?
What's up, Kelly? How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I'm trying to, hold on one second. There we go. Turn on the right camera. There we go. I'm doing well. Well, everybody out there, let me know if you hear an echo. I updated my iOS and for some reason the echo cancellation wasn't working the other day. So let me know if you can hear him talking on echo when he talks now.
I think it sounds pretty fine.
Okay, cool. Well,
know, though.
Hey, the market's topped. We're going down. This is done. What's going on with this, really?
Nothing too much. This is just normal price action, right? Moved up, kind of retesting this area that we consolidated on for a few days. So currently below the 10 SMA. That's the first time we've gone below it since back here in November before the election. Usually you see that when you go below the 10 SMA, the 21 SMA gets tested. If you look back a few times, like back here, went below the 10, came down to the 21. Over here, went below the 10, came to the 21. Went below the 10, came to the 21. Down here, almost touched it. This time, touched it. And then currently, the 21 SMA sits around $89,000. So I think if this doesn't end up holding as support, then there is some more down here. So I think overall, though, Bitcoin is really in a good position overall. This is we made a massive move up. This is hardly really even a pullback of significance, really. There's nothing to get worried about unless, like, I guess if you start buying now, I guess that would kind of like freak you out. If you bought Bitcoin up here at 99,000 and this is your first pullback, maybe then it would freak you out. But I think across the market, it looks very much set up like it always has. And we anticipated this for months and months and months going into the election and then post-election. And then just historically what Bitcoin has done every single cycle after the election, it usually starts to move up. And then with the alts and whatnot, usually around that time, soon after when Bitcoin breaks all-time highs, we see Bitcoin dominance top. We see ETH start to move. So I think this is all on track. If we look at Bitcoin dominance currently seeing a green day overall, but really since the election, which was November 5th right here, this was this candle, Bitcoin dominance is down. It was around 60% at that time, 60.6, currently around 59. So despite Bitcoin's biggest move since really back in January or maybe February, dominance is down. You would think if dominance were to continue up, it would have continued up during that time frame when Bitcoin went from 75K to almost 100K, but it actually has gone down over that time period. So I do think there is a decent shot that dominance has actually topped, which would actually be really good because despite this small pullback on dominance, we did see the alts get a nice little pump. Some of them are pulling back today over the last few days, but overall, a lot of them have moved up. And I would say if this starts to drop significantly, this would just be huge for the alts. And really, this is the thing that would confirm dominance is in for me would be breaking below this 56 level. There's a lot of support and resistance on this level. So if it lost it, I think it would just end up coming down. So we haven't seen anything really. This has been, I said it yesterday, this is really just the appetizer, not the entree hit all. The gains have been nice, the upside has been nice, but when it really starts to get started, you're going to probably see coins just completely rip, like flying hundreds of percent potentially within weeks. So we haven't really seen much, and I think a lot of people can't really after just the last few years and the last 6 months and whatnot really like see that happening. And that's usually the recipe for it to happen, because it kind of that happened back in 2020. A lot of people um, it was the same type of situation, and then right in around January, around that time frame, alts just start to explode, erupt. Obviously, remember like Doge just going multiples. Cardano went up multiples. There were so many that just went up drastically during that time period. So I think this is like all on track. The interesting thing for me, right? And I've been talking about it with my Patreon. I had mentioned it a few times on YouTube. If you're interested, I do have a Patreon. I do talk about this often, but it's historically, right? If we go back the last 4 years, because I think everyone needs to have a plan in place. Obviously, it's like nice to get excited that the prices are going up, but I think in the back of your mind, you should also be kind of hyper focused on taking profits as well at some point. Because why are we here? Like, you're not here to bag hold this all the way up and then ride it all the way back down. You're here to make money, and the only way to do that is eventually to take profits. So if we go back, and I think I mentioned this before to you, Kelly. Back in 2021, April 2021, we topped and then rolled over, went from 65K down to 30K. Then the following year, this was in the bear market, but it still applied. April of 2022, we moved up the first few months. The first quarter, we actually went up. But then April 2022 rolled over. And then by June, we were down. We went from 49K down to 17K. Then in 2023, this was April again, first week of April, we were at 31,000. And then by June, we were down to 24,000. So that was a minimal, that was the smallest, but that's still 25%. And I'm pretty sure during that time period, a lot of alts went down a lot further. There was the SEC news at the time with all the lawsuits against a lot of the coins too as well, that attributed to it. And then last year, of course, or this year, April of 2024, same exact thing. We topped around 72,000 and then went down for 4 or 5 months. So every single April for the last 4 years, I'm going to remove this actually. Every single April for the last 4 years, we have seen a pullback of significance, and essentially the market topped until at least the following year or quarter four. So I think if you're sitting here, let's say it's January, March, or February, and you're up significantly, I would strongly urge you to consider taking profits, because just based on the last 4 years, that's when the cycle has essentially topped. And then if you go back to even March of 2020, this was also back here. And this was obviously a black swan, but it's also possible maybe we're going to kind of pull back, top around this April timeframe, and then kind of consolidate around this timeframe. So really 5 years in a row, we've kind of seen a peak around that point. And then even if you go back, let me find a different chart. Let me go way back here. So two of the 3 cycles, we've had 3 cycles so far, which was the 2013 one, the 2017, and then the 2021 one. In the 2013 one, we also topped in April. And then in the 2021, we also topped in April. So 2 out of the 3 cycles, we topped in April as well as the last 5 years. So I would not fight the trend. There's clearly a trend about the April timeframe. So I would strongly, if you're up 3, 4, 5x by February, March, take something off the table. And this doesn't mean that the cycle has to top here by any means. I think it actually still favors that we're going to top in quarter four, because that's just what's happened the last 3 cycles. So I think it still favors that, but there could be some sort of double top or something like we saw back in 2021 or 2013, where we had 2 peaks essentially. I
was talking about that earlier in the stream. I think we're going to get a combination between the 2013 and the 2017 sort of move. But before we go any further, everybody that's tuned in right now, you see we got 2 OGs on the stream. Now we got Kevin Svensson, we got Matthew Hyland. And before we continue on, every single one of you, when you're watching any sort of content, it engages you whatsoever, head over to, where is it at? My page right here, or at Academy BitLab. But go and retweet this live stream. Let's see how many people we can smash into this legendary stream. Everybody hit that retweet, hit that like button. Remember, it does enter you to win all kinds of goodies. But let's continue on because we got some absolute OGs in the house. So Kevin, how you doing? My question to you is, this is it, right? 99 is the top. We should all just give up. It's done. It's done and over, right?
Yeah, I mean, all your hopes and dreams are dead. You might as well just pack it up and go home because it is over. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Actually, I don't know if can you share my screen or
Yeah. Just
I posted this on Twitter today right here, which is
you have to share your screen though, so I can assign it.
Of course. Let's see. And here we go. That should be it right there.
Give me 1 second.
Hopefully it works.
Boom.
Yeah, so this is what I posted on Twitter
man.
today because the cat. Why is it going down? Because it's funny. If you look at like the Bitcoin line chart, like first of all, if you just pull up the Bitcoin chart and you go to like the monthly, and you look at what the way that this is structured here, I mean, how can anybody be upset right now? Like there's like a little bit of concern or panic or whatever where we are right now, and it's like this monthly just looks amazing. I mean, the monthly chart looks amazing. People are asking why is it going down like in this image off of this little move when really we've just been going up every dip. Well, I guess a fun fact is that every dip in Bitcoin history has been a buy now at this point, right? I guess the only one is the one that we just did the past couple days. Is this dip also going to be a buy? Probably, right? Every dip in Bitcoin history has been a buy. And so people are asking, why are we going down? I mean, if you've been in this market long enough, you kind of know the drill at this point, right? It's buy the dip season. One thing to note about Bitcoin at this point in the cycle, when you go to maybe like the Bitstamp chart, something that has more history, you can see that every time Bitcoin breaks its all-time high, it doesn't really give you a second chance. Not right away, at least. Maybe later in the bear market, Bitcoin breaks 20K. It doesn't really give you much of a second chance. It kind of just rips. And you can just go back to the other zones too. So Bitcoin breaking the all-time high, is Bitcoin going to be nice enough to all the people that are waiting to buy to come back down and give everybody a nice comfortable entry to then go back up? I don't think so. That's not very characteristic of Bitcoin to do that. It's more characteristic of Bitcoin to not give you a second chance, kind of just keep pushing, and then maybe give you a wicked correction at a later point, but not giving anyone that second chance to get those low levels. That's too easy. Bitcoin doesn't really do that. I mean, anything is possible, of course. I mean, we have new players. Wall Street's here. I don't know how they're going to behave, but Bitcoin, it's uncharacteristic to give you a second chance. Those first few weeks above the all-time high, like last cycle, we didn't come back to those prices, until the bear market in the last cycle. So,
well, you know what I find
now.
interesting. I had Highland on. I think it was last week when we were flirting at 90, 94, 96, 92, and you mentioned Matthew. You said if the price action does get up there and consolidate, not break down to 75, no, but like consolidate around that 100. We'll likely start seeing some alts move. And this is exactly what's happening. We're seeing some mid cap and smaller cap coins make some moves. So do you also feel like that, Kevin? Do you feel like if we consolidate here without breaking down to fill the CME gap or something, do you feel like the alts are going to slowly, I feel like it's just like a signal of confidence in the market. And, if once we break past like 110, I think things are going to be freaking flying, man.
Yeah. If we look at this chart right here, I have the US dollar tether dominance chart at the bottom. And then you have the total 3, which is the altcoin market cap, which does not include Bitcoin or Ethereum. So these are all the alts. And then the Bitcoin chart at the top. And you can see, if you look closely, like at this point here, there was a resistance around 90. Bitcoin runs up to almost 100, and then kind of goes full circle, round trip back to that 90K area, that previous cluster. The total 3, the altcoin market cap, if you mark up that same day where that round trip for Bitcoin just took place, the total 3 has not done that. It actually bounced above that day. So the altcoins are gaining momentum against, I guess, to validate what Matthew said. Yeah, the total 3 is getting a higher bounce here than it did on, which was, what is that, November 14th? We're above that. So now it is turning into alt season, where the altcoins slowly and then faster and faster and faster begin to outpace Bitcoin, and then dominance begins to come down. Of course, Bitcoin's close to 100, and when Bitcoin breaks through 100, I'm saying when, I guess I should say if, to be, politically correct or whatever you want to call it. The 100K break would probably send dominance up for a little bit, and it could be like the final peak in dominance because it's 100K, big psychological level. Maybe some liquidity flows back to Bitcoin for that moment, and then that would be the top in dominance. But yeah, I mean, altcoins are starting to trend. Another good thing to look at is the US dollar tether dominance, because it's pretty much inverse to Bitcoin, pretty much inverse. You can see, the total 3 is down the past couple days, and USDT is up. Bitcoin's down the past, well, I guess technically 3 days before this. USDT dominance is up, pretty inversely correlated. So this is something that I've been using more often recently. It's just a really good inverse gauge. But regardless, as long as USDT dominance stays low, kind of just, even if it's holding a support zone, as long as it remains low, the altcoins can do really well. If you go to the past cycle, when USDT dominance was kind of just staying low in this zone, or I guess it was earlier than that, when it was just staying low, just hanging out near that support, altcoins were coming up. When it's hanging out near that support, altcoins are coming up. So as long as USDT dominance doesn't bounce, the altcoins should continue to gain momentum against Bitcoin overall.
Yeah, let's throw it back over to Highland. What charts are you looking at? Other than we looked at Bitcoin, but we just obviously we see the total 3 here. We see USDT. I can actually swap it back. Boom, right there. By the way, it's so fun having us 3 amigos on here talking, because obviously we've had such a great connection over the last year, and it's nice to get different viewpoints and see what the different lenses are from different people. So this is fun.
No, yeah, it definitely is. I'm trying to find a chart to compare to like last cycle when Bitcoin had its initial pullback. So this was back in January of 2021. This is when it moved up to around 45K. It had that initial pullback. It dropped from around, or 42K approximately. It dropped from 42K to around 29K. And then it started to move up. But during that time period, we started to see some alts really start to fly. So if you look at, this was Cardano back then. This is around the same time frame. Once when Bitcoin got that bounce right here, this was January 22nd or 25th, it looks like. And then you go back here, January 25th. Once when Bitcoin got that first bounce, Cardano absolutely flew. It went from around 31 cents all the way up to $1.74, and that was within a month. So it went up almost like 500%. And then I was trying to find another one. So I was looking at Chainlink. Let's see what Chainlink did back then. Chainlink also, this is same thing. So this is around the same time frame. Bitcoin kind of dropped into early January or mid-January, and then Chainlink started to really fly. It went from around $11 all the way up to about $37 within a month also. So Chainlink went up about 4x right there. So the bigger point is that Bitcoin, whenever this starts, a lot of these alts are going to really start to rip within a very short time frame. This was only a month that we saw these gains. And I'm sure a lot of the other coins during that time period, if I can find, let me see what Ethereum did.
Well, I mean, you just pointed out something that's incredible for us all to remember is that even that month that you're just talking about them pumping up, price did go higher. But that move was that month. And that's why it's so important. If you miss this, even by a week, it could be 150% difference in what your portfolio can do because you were not sure. I think right now I'm curious you guys. I'm kind of like, this is the time to hodl. If you're in something or if you're stacking, it's time to hodl, let the move happen, and then start figuring out, not let me trade every single move with my portfolio. If you're trading, great, do it with 3% of your portfolio. But these moves, I think it's going to shock people. It could even start before the end of the year. It could start early next year. We don't know when it's going to happen, but when it happens, it is a firework, and you cannot grab a firework once it's lit.
I think that's the thing. Like you said, you could easily miss some of these moves if you're not in the coin. I'm going to go back to Chainlink. Let's see from back in 2020 back here. So this was within a few candles right here. It went from around $13 within 4 or 5 days. It was already at $23. So that was a significant move. And then like if you see a move like that, you would feel like if you didn't have Chainlink at that time, you probably are like, oh, it just moved up a lot. Like I don't know if I should enter. I don't want to lose money now. But then it continued upwards. So I think it's really, like I said before, I think it's best to kind of just not chase too much. Most of these coins, if you've noticed over the last few days, the market's been kind of seeking out coins one by one that haven't moved. If you moved your coins from profit into coins that haven't moved, that makes sense. But I wouldn't chase coins that are up a lot significantly. I think most of the stuff that's listed on the major exchanges are going to see a pump at some point. So, and they could just really fly really fast when they start to go. So, not being in them could be costly if you're constantly moving stuff around, essentially.
Absolutely. And with that note, I don't know what chart this is. I can't see it because my
Yeah,
screen's
so
too far away.
I was actually gonna go based off of what Matthew was just saying there about how like in the last cycle, the way that Altseason tends to work. Matthew was actually talking about this range. So let me just zoom out again. This is Bitcoin in the total 3 long term. The blue is the altcoin market cap, which is excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, everything else, and then the Bitcoin chart. If you go back to 2021, there's some details in here where you'll see Bitcoin breaks the 20,000 level right there, goes all the way to 42, corrects down. And while Bitcoin is sort of just doing this little, bouncing off of 28,000, as it's doing that, each time Bitcoin bounces, even though the support is pretty much flat, the total 3 is seeing higher lows against flat support. And it's even seeing higher highs against Bitcoin's lower highs. So when Bitcoin breaks the all-time high, runs up, consolidates at a new all-time high, well, a lot of people start to look at other areas in the market. They're like, well, okay, Bitcoin's doing well. Well, this makes me confident. Sentiment is up. People are looking for opportunities. And that's how you start to get, each time Bitcoin bounces, there's a little bit of excitement. Oh, it's bouncing. People start to buy the alts each time it bounces, right? It's like, oh, Bitcoin might go up again. Alts start to bounce and go up even faster than Bitcoin because relative to Bitcoin, they are undervalued. It may not be that the actual projects themselves are undervalued, but in a bull cycle, when you compare Bitcoin and these projects, they become undervalued based on Bitcoin, right? And so that's why all these projects are just following Bitcoin ultimately in the end. And so, yeah, I mean, this is the mechanism that we had around that zone. And you're already starting that was 2021. That was January 2021, February. If you go to the really short term, like we were showing before, you're already starting to get that type of price action, at least slightly, right? We were looking at a larger time frame or a little bit more of an area, more of a range in that last example. But Bitcoin came back to 90, this previous resistance, and the total 3 has not come back to this point, like we were talking about earlier. So yeah, I mean, all the signals are there that the alts are getting momentum. And that was an interesting observation that Matt made when he was saying that the market is seeking out coins. And that is kind of what's happening. I think a lot of people are sort of sitting there asking, like, okay, what's the next pump? What's the next pump? And then then it starts to snowball, like we saw, like Cardano, XRP, XLM. A lot of these pumps like snowballed and becoming a lot bigger because a lot of people, I think, were just waiting to pounce on something that was going to move.
Right? I mean, I couldn't believe that I pulled up the XLM chart, and I hadn't really looked at the charts the last 2 days because I had family in town. I could not believe the XLM pumped 600%, you know? I do want to just pause for a moment because somebody said, who are these guys? So with that, I will say it is here on my page here where, you know, Matthew Hyland, Kevin Svensson, make sure you're giving them a follow. This is Matthew Hyland. He's honestly one of the most straightforward, unbiased chartists in the space, and, you know, crypto OG. Make sure you give him a follow, Matthew Hyland _, and then of course Kevin Svensson _ as well. OG, I mean, Kevin Svensson is one of the first crypto YouTubers I ever watched back in the day, and he is absolutely on his game. So coming back over here, we can't ignore what's going on with the economy. And there's still people questioning if we're going to get a recession, if everything's about to implode. And it feels like that with the the exponential underwater sort of level that banks are in right now and the housing. But it just seems like things keep persisting. But today's a great day to ask, like you talk a lot about the strength of the dollar and what's going on with the economy, Kevin. And there's FOMC, I believe, today and tomorrow. Do you think this is going to have, you know, the same kind of impacts that we've seen on a monthly basis for the last 2 years because of inflation? Or do you feel like potentially because of the astronomically it's a freight train of bullishness that is behind Bitcoin right now? So is that starting to lose its effect on price speculation?
That was a lot. I'm not 100% sure how to answer all of that. The first thing that I thought of was just the general trend of the S&P, and like a big thing right now, a reason why a lot of things are happening in this market and in the stock market is the Trump effect, whether you like him or not. I mean, it's pretty obvious that he has a positive effect on markets, and sentiment and, you know, inside of markets gets pumped from Trump. I mean, like, it's very obvious. He was at the Bitcoin conference that actually me, Kelly, and Matthew were all at. That was, what is that? That was Nashville. And, you know, it's very positive for the markets that Trump is coming into office because he's so pro crypto. And he's also brags about the stock market. I'm just trying to speak about this as objectively as possible. And I think that's a big reason right now that things are going well. And I think the Fed might want to appease Trump a little bit before he comes into office and continue to lower rates. They were already planning to do that. I mean, there's of course, some mixed signals on that, but I think that they might sort of just try to make it a smooth transition, make sure everyone's happy. Every single election, if you pull up, you know, I have an indicator that I posted, very simple. It's just U.S. presidential elections, names and dates on TradingView. And you just go back in time, every election, we're at least going up into the election. In the past, we would dump after the inauguration oftentimes, but that started to change in more recent years. You know, Reagan, we went up through the inauguration, Bush up through the inauguration, Clinton up through the inauguration, Clinton number 2 or second term up through the inauguration, George Bush, we actually dipped into the election. So we were actually going up basically into the election, dump on inauguration, up through it. Barack Obama is the only one that stands out as an anomaly where we're just like wrecked for the election inauguration. This is the only real one in history. Everything else, up and away, up and away, up and away. And here we are, up and away. And so I think that we're going to have a smooth ride into Trump, the beginning, at least the beginning, or at least like a smooth ride, at least into Q2, and probably beyond. I think that we might actually have a fairly good market going into second half of 2025. If anything was going to happen, I think it would be somewhere around September, October of 2025, if there was going to be any sort of major downturn. And it would make sense. I mean, at least from a stock market perspective, like the S&P is already up quite a bit on this move. And if we have
so then Kevin,
general
what do you
continuation,
say to, and this, I thought this was interesting. Matthew brought up on the stream a couple weeks ago, I believe it was you, Matthew, talking about the measurement. It was roughly 800-ish days from cycle lows to a pretty large correction, which would put us sometime March or April, right? And then you also outlined all the different time frames in April where we've seen a pretty decent pullback, which would kind of lend credence to like what we saw in 2013, where we had a pretty big run up, sell off. Everybody thought that was the top, and then it just went exponential after that, having a little bit of a soft summer. What do you make of what Kevin's saying about just persisting potentially to the upside? Like, how do we contend with this? I mean, this is so exciting. I don't want to mess this up.
I agree with Kevin essentially with like his view on the stock market, and I've been saying this for really a while too. The last 3 times, I'm not sure what this is. S&P 500. Let me remove these boxes, or we'll just leave them. But if you go back, this was post-election. The last 3 times, this was 2012, went up for essentially 3 years, right? This was 2016. Essentially went up until for 3 years again, and then this time, the last election, went up, had the bear market, and then continued up. But I think what was good about this bear market is that we got it out of the way, because essentially we didn't go through a bear market essentially other than the 2020 crash, which was a crash and not really a full bear market. We didn't really have a bear market since 2000, 2008, 2009. So like a lot of people that are calling for another bear market immediately, we were just in one. And the last time we were in one, it resulted in almost 13 years of upside, essentially. And I'm not saying we're going to get 13 years of upside, but it's only been 1 year. So like or 2 years. So like what's jumping the gun on why this next bear market needs to just happen now? If we do even see a pullback for the stocks, maybe it's just something that we saw back here, just something small or something around like this time frame. And this probably wouldn't have happened without the pandemic. So I don't see the reasons for, another 2008, 2009. And a lot of the thing that people keep forgetting is they compare this period or past periods to currently. A lot of the people are talking about the yield curves and whatnot, but it's hard to compare any of that when the M2 money supply wasn't expanding the way it was or the way it is now. Back then, they didn't have QE. The M2 wasn't going up as significantly. So the amount of money, if we end up in some sort of financial thing where the stock market is going down, we all know that they're just going to print off tons of money. This is when it started. They started with only a $900 or $850 billion bill. And then obviously in 2020, it went up to $6 trillion. And the next one, if we ever have another pullback of significance, it's probably just going to be even larger than that. So we know what they're going to do. They're just going to print off money. And now with inflation, even though the prices are higher, inflation is back down to almost 3% now. They do have some leeway to print off money once again if a problem arises. But I think we are in for a period of a lot of upside.
Well, I mean, on that note, this global liquidity chart here, I've actually surprised to see that global liquidity has been pulling back because we also saw reports, must have been 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now, that China was about to do, I think it was like 1.4 billion or it might be 1.4 trillion, but a huge amount of money printing. It's just funny to me to see the global liquidity pulling back as it has right here and the price still pushing up. This is actually super bullish to me because this to me means if we do start seeing this find a bit of a bottom here and start rolling back over, not only stocks, but Bitcoin, altcoins, the markets are going to be so supercalifragilistic bullish that we can't even imagine it, you know?
This is the M2 money supply, and this is, and if you look at this, this isn't even above where it was in 2022. So this is only just getting started, and when this breaks to new highs, this is probably just going to continue up significantly. And I think a few months ago we did this. I drew out like a line like this, a trajectory of where this is heading over the next year. So between now and perhaps let's see where this goes to like November 2024, it's on a trajectory to at least add around $2, maybe even $3 trillion into the money supply. And this was really the first actual significant pullback in its history. You go back historically for the M2 money supply, we've never seen anything like this before, and now it's going to eventually break back above it. So yeah, I think this is just generally set up to continue higher. And even during the bear market back in 2022, I kept saying this at the time, but this peaked only in April of 2022, and then the market bottomed. I think 6 months after this had peaked. So there's no way that all this money that was printed starting in 2020 back here, this was almost a 33% or 33% expansion of the money supply was priced in within 6 months. So I think, and I even said this before the stock market broke to all-time highs, before Bitcoin broke to all-time highs, I was saying that this was not priced in completely. All this money that was printed off has not been completely priced in. This would take years to price in because it takes time for money to move around, flow in. And now we're seeing that the stock market is way above the highs. Bitcoin's way above the highs. But meanwhile, the M2 money supply is not. But the answer is because this all wasn't priced in completely. It's still being priced in. So the money, and if you think back for a Bitcoin perspective or crypto, we didn't have the ETFs either back then to those were essentially the on ramps for this money to flow in, and we didn't have that back then, and now we do. So that money is finally able to make its way into this space finally. So this entire setup I think is good. And then with the SEC changes that are coming, that's very significant. We've gone over that multiple times. Makes a big difference for the whole space. And like Kevin was saying, the whole White House now and administration is all pro crypto. They all hold crypto. They hold NFTs. They're incentivized to. We all know that politicians kind of push for their investments, or put in policies that benefit their investments. So obviously
their
with
bags.
crypto, they pump their bags. We all know this happens. So now that most, even on the left, there's a lot of Democrats that also hold crypto. They're all pretty much incentivized to at least have a crypto friendly environment. And I think that will end up happening. And it's going to probably end up happening where we see a pro crypto environment. So I think that looks good and everything for the future. And I was gonna go over one chart real fast.
Yeah.
This is actually a coin that Kevin likes, which is AVAX. And if you were, and I was thinking about this, if you were to ask, like, if someone was new today and said, "Hey, like, I just got into crypto. What coin should I buy?" And like, you could suggest a lot of coins, right? And from like a risk reward perspective, buying Bitcoin at this price, yes, it'll probably go up, right? But I think it is also a little late to buy Bitcoin. Essentially, like I personally wouldn't buy something once when it breaks the all-time high. I'd wait for it to come back during the bear market. But something like AVAX, you look at AVAX. AVAX is down. It would still need to do a 3x, I believe, from this point to get to this high. And this chart just overall looks pretty clean, right? Had the initial move up, had a pullback, but this is a nice structure. It found support down here. So even if you were to buy this today, just to get back to the all-time high is a 3x, but the first fib target is essentially a 6x from here. So this coin and this structure of this coin just looks, I mean, in my opinion, it looks fine. Like to like, if I were to ask you, Kelly, like, what would be one coin that you would buy from like a risk reward perspective? Because you don't want to buy something that's like already above all-time highs, I would say. But you also don't want to buy something that's too risky, that's like super low cap, that has absolutely no chance.
Yeah, Avalanche is there. It's one of the ones I've been stacking into. Now I'm just on ultra hodl mode with Avalanche, Near Protocol. Also, I think Chainlink is criminally undervalued, so much so that I wonder if there's some price suppression on it because it's one of the most integrated coins in the crypto ecosystem while also integrating things across, I don't want to call it analog, but the legacy markets and things outside of crypto as well, in addition to doing RWA stuff now, in addition to doing partnerships with Swift. I mean, I had this thing up. I don't know if I shared it already. I had this thing up right here that Quentin Francois shared. And look at this. Chainlink collaborating with leading financial institutions, DTCC, Chainlink AI oracles, Swift interoperability, institutional use. I mean, you could just look at some of the names of this is people outside of crypto. This isn't even talking about all the integrations of nearly every crypto project. Also, I think it's so undervalued. So that's why currently it's my largest altcoin holding.
Yeah, I would say Chainlink too is a very similar chart. I think it actually looks kind of like the Avalanche chart. If you go back to even 2021, this was Avalanche. This was around the same time frame that we were speaking about earlier when Bitcoin had the initial drop from 42K to 30K starting in January. Avalanche went up essentially 10x within a month. So this is just another example of how Altseason could really play out fast. Like whenever it starts, we're going to see like a really strong month, like we saw with a bunch of them, where a lot of them went up significantly. And we aren't there yet, or it hasn't happened yet by any means. So you're still ahead of the game, I'd say, at this point, because dominance hasn't dropped at all. Once when dominance starts to drop, that's when I think, it's getting later now. I think the people that enter late will end up, getting hurt. But I think if you're in this now, I think you probably have a decent chance to do well, but you also have to take profits. You absolutely have to take profits. Don't fall for the trap that things are just going to go up only. I've been seeing that a lot on Twitter actually over the past week or so, and I made a post about it. There's a lot of people that are kind of in this up only mindset once again, and I didn't think it would really come back, but now I'm seeing predictions of $1 million Bitcoin, 1.5 million, and I think we'll get there. I think we will get there, but it's going to take time. And then like for MicroStrategy, I see a lot of it stemming from that Saylor has essentially broken the system and whatnot. And I do think that he has found a flaw, but in any market, there's always an incentive to bring a price down on something. So there's a reward if you can bring the Bitcoin price down. When it gets higher, though, the larger MicroStrategy goes up, the more it goes up, the more the premium goes up. There's an incentive to bring it down and then buy it for pennies on the dollar. So at some point, it's already pretty significantly large. It's almost $100 billion market cap, which is, I think, like what 1/20th or 1/18th of the Bitcoin market cap. So it's pretty sizable at this point. So just keep that in mind that the higher it goes, the bigger target it will have on its back to, be pulled back at some point. Which would be the method of doing that would be to bring the Bitcoin price down essentially. But that's what bear markets are for. And we saw that last cycle with Grayscale and whatnot. There was the Grayscale product 4 years ago was, the best product ever. And, they broke the system too. And then what happened? It eventually, the premium came back down. So
no, absolutely. I see, Kevin, you got the link in the AVAX charts up. Is there some thing? Oh, look at that breakout on the RSI. And it's just now flirting with that resistance.
Yeah, no, it's funny because they are. I posted both of these charts actually on Twitter the other day as we were coming up to the multi-year resistance. Avalanche, Chainlink, both sitting in a really, really similar setup. Both great projects. I think both of them are blue chips here to stay for a long time. In this industry, this is the last cycle, this cycle was like one of the first times we started to see crypto projects stick around for the next cycle. Because a lot of times they would just disappear. It would be like a whole new set of coins with maybe what survived. Obviously, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, XRP, and like a few others might stick around, but it was always just washing out new coins. Now you're seeing things stick. Avalanche was here in a similar position on the top 10 or 20. Same thing with Chainlink, and they're sticking here. So there's and Doge, they're all and Solana. That the market is maturing, and so it's just a good sign. Chainlink is very likely to be a leading blue chip crypto asset for, who knows how long, decades, right? That's what I think. They're the most integrated project. I mean, I guess other than Ethereum, like I'm very, very confident in Chainlink's long-term viability. And obviously Swift 2025, Swift is going to be implementing a lot of the technology that Chainlink helped them develop for interoperability between traditional finance and blockchain. And that's that's huge. That's like one of the biggest achievements, I think, of any crypto project thus far. Though, of course, some people would say, well, that's not, moving towards decentralization. But in a way, it could be sort of getting traditional finance to move more into the decentralized space. So it depends on how you look at it. Anyway, yeah, Chainlink Avalanche, both looking good in the same spot, likely going to get a macro breakout. So we've been in accumulation, and now comes expansion, right? We're breaking the weekly RSI trend line, expansion up. Go to Chainlink, same type of deal. You're looking to break, above our accumulation, go into expansion. So, I would be shocked if these assets didn't, start to trend up and just went sideways. I would be very shocked. Likely major expansion coming as Bitcoin is doing what it's doing now. Another thing that I was going to mention that Matthew Hyland was just talking about is how the stock market is still moving up. The Fed and the money supply is coming down, the M2 is coming down, and the Fed balance sheet is also declining, and the stock market's still going up. But it's because of all the money printing. I think Matthew said it's still being priced in. I would word it a little differently, and that is that there's a lagging effect, which is basically what you were saying. It's just a different way to look at it. Like in 2008, when they started to print, or the balance sheet started to rise, and there were a lot of money printing, a lot of bailouts. We started a recovery, and when the balance sheet flattened out, the stock market continued to rage on. Bitcoin had its huge cycle from 200 to 20,000 while the Fed balance sheet was flat. And that's because all the stimulus that took place was coming into the markets. It had a lagging effect. Like you pour a giant bucket of water into a lake, the ripples take a long time to get to the shore. You see that come a little bit later. And the same thing here. The doubling of the money supply for COVID, that's still coming into the market. It's having a lasting residual impact on markets. So S&P is rising as a residual impact on, what took place during COVID, after COVID. So that's what we're seeing here.
I mean, it just comes down to us being a part of the most exciting time in history. Let me get my face back on here 1 second. I don't know where my face disappeared. There we go. Boom. The most exciting time in history. We're all ahead of it. And we're lucky to do this as a community with so many people that are in your community, Kevin, in your community, Matthew, here at BitLab. And I mean, I'm so excited for this next year that I try not to just jump around doing jumping jacks every single where I go, and realize that there are
I
still
want to
like
see you
these
do that
dips.
now.
What's
I was
that?
going to
see
say,
you do
I was
jumping
actually going to
jacks.
make one more point.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote it down, but I forgot to say it. The only difference between now and any other time in our lifetime or generation is that it is wartime. That is the one main factor that can change or shift how things play out, is if something significant happens with war. That's the big variable. But anyway,
No, I mean, I completely agree there. And that's why you always got to, as high as you think it may go, it's always a reminder to take profits along the way. Or, as exciting as this is, I mean, we saw the COVID shakeout in March 2020, and a lot of people sold. How do we know a lot of people sold? Because there's a huge amount of buying. And if there's buyers, and that means there's a shitload of sellers. And we don't want to be, where's the tweet that I did this morning? And that is, hold on, let me just show this tweet real quick, because I mean, it really is. I think this is where we're at right now. And that is this right here. not seeing this and going, oh, I better get out before it goes further, only to be up here feeling like, God damn it, I did it again. And that's why I'll say it again, say it with me. Look in the mirror. Bitcoin has not topped. The crypto bull market is not over. The dips in a strong bullish trend are for buying, or at least at minimum sitting on your hands. So hodl and prosper, because that's what we are about right now. I mean, this is a time. Let's not mess this up. We can go ahead and wrap out here though, because I don't want to hold you guys hostage. Matthew, is there anything else you wanted to share, or anywhere else people can find you other than Matthew Highland _? I know you have a YouTube and a Patreon as well.
I'm on YouTube. I have a Patreon that's all my Twitter bio. It's Matthew Highland _. There's hundreds of fake accounts. Kevin has the same problem as I do. And there's fake Instagram accounts too. I don't have an Instagram, so don't give any money or follow that. But my main message would be to focus your mind on the fact that you have to take profits. I think the mistake a lot of people make, and I even have made this in the past, is I just think about, oh, I want to get my account up 3, 4, 5x or whatever it is, 10x, whatever it is. But I don't think about the profit taking and the importance of it. Just start to really mold your mind that you need to take profits. And if you're up, it depends on your goals, right? If you're up 4 or 5x, if your goal is to get 5x and you get up 5x, you achieved your goals, walk away. Take 80 or 90% of it out. Don't, if you get to where you want to get to and you achieve your goals, then take out profits. But if you don't, still slowly, trim out profits and just know that it won't go up forever. And if you have money at the bottom, it's a huge opportunity. If you take profits and you have money at the bottom, it's a huge opportunity.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, I understand when people say they're not selling their Bitcoin. I get that. But the altcoins, that basically what Matthew was just saying, 100%. So you're gonna see 90% drawdowns in a lot of your alts. And the moment that you're looking at your portfolio with those paper gains and you're planning on what car or house you're going to buy next, that's probably when you should be selling, because it's there, the value's there, and you're planning on, oh, look how much I made, but you haven't sold yet. You're like, oh, I'm going to buy, all this stuff. That's your signal. That is your signal.
Take a screenshot.
Absolutely. But this is exciting. And Matt and Kevin, I appreciate you both hopping in here, doing a little fam jam. The market, it's not a top. Even if we dipped, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I shared this earlier. Even if we dipped 30% from where we're at right now, we would only legitimately just be testing a previous range high. And this is exactly what we did back here. We didn't quite get down to a range high, but that 30% resulted in a follow-up 123% pump after that. And if we did that exact move, that would mean we would shake so many people out only to push up and have a top at 155,000. And I don't think this is going to play out. I think we're going to actually push higher before we get a significant dip. But it is the time right now to let the market do the work. And I think that's the message for today.
Yeah, I guess the next 6 months to a year is where the majority of all the gains are going to be made if this is a normal cycle and things play out somewhat normally. 6 months, a year, that's it. That's your gains. And if you don't take them, they're gone. They'll just sort of slowly go away,
Yeah, I don't want anybody here watching, or you two either. I don't want any of you to be rich on paper, only to be like, man, had I only taken profits. Because we've all done it. We've all round tripped. And we're here to ride the rocket to the moon, not go to the moon and come back. Let's do it. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Again, everybody, you can find them at Matthew Highland _ as you can see right here. And he's got all of his links on here. And then, of course, at Kevin Svensson _ make sure you give them a follow. Always great content. And that's all we got for today, guys. We're going to head over to Blockchain Basement now. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Let's see you. Let's ride this to the top. Adios.
Thanks for having us, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Adios, everybody.